If you want to learn how to make a painting like this, then this video is for you. I'm gonna show you the whole process, taking you from the sketch to adding colors, shading and lighting, and then finishing with a polished render. So let's go. Alright, you can see I'm starting here with a basic Lumi's head, and then on a new layer I'm adding the facial features. I don't like adding it on the same layer because I don't like those lines from the Lumi's head. I don't want to have to erase them later, so I can just create a new layer for that. So I'm adding the eyes and nose and mouth, then I can add her hat, the hair, just making a little bit of a more detailed sketch. But you can see that it's still a very simple sketch because I don't really like drawing digitally, so I want to go as quickly as possible to the painting part. You can see that I make selections, I transform, I use liquify. I do whatever I can to make the sketch look good. And also sometimes I flip it horizontally to find mistakes more easily. Because when we look at it from the same angle all the time, we start not seeing mistakes anymore. So flipping it is like resetting the brain to find mistakes. Okay, so I added a blue sky around her, and I'm already painting the character. For that, I created a mask. I just chose some random gray color and outlined her and covered the whole area that the character will be occupying. And then I can create new layers, clip them to the mask, and that way I can paint without worrying about the color spilling outside of the character. You can see that I have almost all of the flat colors in just one layer. This time I made a different layer for the jewelry because I knew this part would probably need a special treatment, so I kept the jewelry on a separate layer throughout the whole painting. Now I created a layer for adding blush to her skin. I just like it, I think it looks cute and she looks more alive as well. And then another layer with a multiply blending mode, which is for darkening. And I used this one to add shadows. Then I select each part of the body and the clothing to change the color because, well, the same color won't necessarily work for all of the colors. And then with a layer mask, I'm erasing and repainting to carve out the light, kind of like a sculpture. Now I have a second multiply layer, which I'm using to add more depth. Because if I shade her all with just one tone, it looks really flat. So I created a new one, also darkening some areas to give it more depth. On the right side, you can see that I made most of the sketch soft light because that way it's easier to blend it with the colors later on. But there is one part that I kept as multiply because I wanted to keep like her eyes and nose, I wanted to be dark, so it's easier for me to really see the limits. Now I merged all of them in one layer, all of those layers in just one, and I can go and paint her. So with a square brush that I really like, I go in and I start painting and painting. This brush, it doesn't have variation on the size, it only varies on the opacity. It's my favorite brush for rendering. You can download my essential brush pack for Clip Studio in the link in the description. It's free and it's the brushes that I use every single day, every time I'm painting. Alright, so for the eyebrow, you can see that I'm still working on the same layer except for the jewelry, which is a different one. And then I'm detailing a little more. I'm using a hairbrush for the eyebrows, and then I keep switching between the hairbrush and the flat square brush for the rest of the face and everything else. Notice how I'll frequently zoom out because if I stay zoomed in too much, I can lose track of how the whole image looks. So I zoom out, I analyze it, and then if needed, I will zoom in to do details. At this point, I painted most of her face already. It's like the base is here. It's not done, but it has a solid foundation. So I went to the hair, added some shadows to it, and then back to the eyes. I like going back and forth between different parts of the character or the scene because it helps me keep my eyes fresh. If I work too long on the eyes, for example, I might stop seeing it properly. It's like our eyes, they just get kind of numb to what they're seeing and they're not really seeing what's there. So I do the eyes and then I paint the hair and then I paint the hand and then I'm back to the nose and I keep going all over the place because that keeps my eyes fresh and also because it's less boring. Now for her head, it's fur and the shoulder thing as well. This was so much fun because I could use the square brush first and then I'm gonna use a blending tool for it, but I'm not even there. I went from the head to the background to everywhere and I'm doing her forehead jewelry. It was a good challenge, this forehead jewelry. Jewelry, it's usually easier to paint than we expect if you keep zoomed out and you just paint the blobs that you see from the photo. It works pretty well. Now I'm adding some shadows below the jewelry to keep it grounded within the image. And then you can say zoom out a lot to make sure that the jewelry works well. And then I'm going to her necklace and you can see that I add some tones like cool tones and some warm tones because the necklace is of a warm material, but the ambient light makes it cooler in some parts. Now let's get to the fur. I really wanted to get to this part because it was so much fun. It was kind of hard. I had to create a blur specific for fur because I couldn't really do it well with what I had. And I really like the result. I think this fur blur is really good and it feels good to paint as well. Now you can see that inside I'm using the hairbrush and also outside in some parts to add fine strands, and that helps keep it kind of realistic because if I just blur it all, it can work depending on your style, but it doesn't look really realistic. In my case, because I want a mixture, it's a semi-realistic painting, I want it to look more like actual fur and less like clouds or something like that. Now for her eyes, I'm really zooming in and adding details to the eyes, like those dark lines on the iris and some blue reflected light. And that is one of the things that help make it realistic, but also it's not like it's a photo. You can't confuse this with a photo, but it looks real enough. So for some reason there's this point in the recording when it got really glitchy. So I'm gonna put the clip studio recording here. It's not ideal, but it's the best I can do because it got real slow and kind of hard to see. I don't know what happened while I was recording this. Okay, now for her hair, you can see that I have some fine drawings on the hair, and that's again with the hairbrush. I just went in there and created this fine hair strands. both inside the braids and outside of it. And that gives that really hair-like appearance. Now for her arm thing, which I don't know how to call, I used a stamp brush for the rings, and then I'm manually painting it. I have a lot of layers on the right side now. You can see I have one for the rings and one for the highlights, shoulder fur, everything. It's getting really convoluted at this moment, and I'll probably soon merge them because I don't like working with a lot of layers. Again, on the arm thing, to make it look more like leather, I created a texture brush that I want to paint it with, and now you can see that it looks kind of leathery. It looks well. It looks good. One of the best parts of painting is trying to figure out how to paint materials. I love doing this. I think it's a lot of fun. If I didn't add this kind of shimmer to her arm thing, it wouldn't really read the same. Just like if I had painted a different sort of highlight, if it were stronger or wider, each one of those would create a different appearance. Alright, now we're on the clothing, and there's not much to say here. I'm just going with the square brush that I like and painting some areas with blue because of the ambient light, and other areas not so much, doesn't have as much blue. Alright, now to her neck jewelry. Oh, this one was a lot of fun. Everything here was kind of hard, but also lots of fun. So I was at this moment learning about how to paint jewelry, so I had to experiment a lot. But you can see that I'm creating a bunch of really tiny paint blobs. And when you look at it from a distance, it starts working. If you put the highlights in the right place and then ambient light on the right place and warm here and there, it starts working. Oh, if you want to learn how to paint with light and shadow like this, so you can understand how to change light angles, how to paint ambient light and subsurface scattering, and how to bring your painting to life with light and shadow, then I have something for you. The doors to my Light and Color Academy are opening real soon. It is a complete program that will unlock light and color for you, so you can bring your paintings to life and make amazing artworks. If you're interested, then join the priority list to get exclusive bonuses when I open the doors. The link is in the description. You can see me fixing the shape of the bottom part, because it was kind of messy before. I didn't want it to be ugly like that. Then I can add some patterns to her outfit. Lately, I'm really liking to add patterns to clothing and fabric because it looks so much richer and it looks more like real life, because real life is full of patterns. I mean, not everybody. I usually don't wear pattern. You can see I'm wearing like just plain black shirt here, but it looks really good in a painting. Alright, now we can get to the fine details, the part I love the most, which is those really tiny and textured highlights. I added some to her eyelashes and then to her hair, a bunch of them, really white but really tiny, so it doesn't become overbearing. And then I'm really zooming in and adding those thin brush strokes to the jewelry as well to give it more depth, especially around the edges. You can see that I'm adding a highlight in some areas and then a really dark strip to show this crevice that is near the edge of the jewelry. And then we can add those on her head. I started trying to use a pre-made brush, like a really regular brush, a stamp brush with round beads. But it looked so artificial and boring, I decided to just DIY with a regular cell brush and make it a little bit more messy. I think it looks more natural and better for jewelry like that. And for this type of jewelry, because her necklace is not the same material as her forehead thingy, right? This one that I'm painting right now is really metallic, so it has really strong highlight, which is very white, and also very saturated midtones and shadows, usually. So that's what I painted here. Then I can go back to the hat and add, again, fine strands. You can see how everything follows a process here. We start with the flat colors and then large brush strokes, and then near the end we can zoom in and use fine brush strokes. Now I'm just adding some texture for fun because I love textured images. So I'm adding some texture to her skin area, her eye highlight, her mouth, everything. Just texture, 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 love it. And then I also like adding random colors, like a pop of red here and there, or a pop of blue. It's not really random, it needs to fit the image. But you will see that I'm gonna be adding like the inside corner of her eye is really bright red. I love this. And then my favorite part, which is right at the end, I add hatching. One of the hardest parts for me to make the transition from anime art to realism was that I love hatching and I couldn't really make it work with realism. But then I figured this out, which is I can just add some hatching in the light and shadow transitions, and for me it looks amazing. I love this appearance. It is exactly what I like in artwork. Now, finishing touches. I create an overlay, a glow, and then with a particle brush, motion blur, it can become snow, a little bit of color balance here and there, hue saturation, and it's done! This is the finished image. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to learn more about how to paint with Clip Studio, I have an entire tutorial. Just click on this next video here to watch it. See you there, bye!